You know, some women just deserve trauma.
This shit was gonna be haunted.
Fucking this dead body.
Well, I need to put his corpse in my car. Hey guys, welcome back to T.N.I Book Club. I'm Violet.
I'm Aurora.
And today we're going to be reading Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson.
When you first got this book, what were your first impressions? Did you choose this one or did I? I forget.
I can't remember. Maybe me, because I'm knee deep in the Irish shit.
Yes.
Mythology. Sorry, not shit.
Come for us, Ireland. Just kidding. No, don't. Wait. I didn't mean it like that. No.
Come for us.
Yes, Ireland, come for us. Be good. Be a good country. I'm sorry. No, okay. So anyway, we don't read the back normally. So what were your first impressions when you first started reading or when you first got a hold of this thing? What did you think it was going to be?
Not what I read, which isn't a bad thing. I really enjoyed it, but I wasn't expecting what I read at all. I knew it was LGBT, so I was expecting like lesbians to like go through some crazy like monster shit, which kind of happened, but it wasn't at all what I expected. What about you?
I really like the cover of it, and so I was like, "Ooh, okay, I don't know, maybe it's got like some kind of demon, maybe it's some kind of possession story," which it is and it isn't.
I don't think the cover matches the story at all. Like, this gives me she transforms into something, which there are like changelings, but I think this implies like a wolf in sheep's clothing or like a sheep in wolf's clothing type of thing.
I was thinking this is more of a Russian doll situation, and I think it kind of fits design-wise. I'm assuming the outside is supposed to be Etain, right? And this is Aisling on the inside. The mother and the daughter and the trauma, you know, that's what I was seeing.
What I was saying was bullshit. I like what you were saying.
No.
We'll stick with that.
But it definitely, this book took so many turns where I was not expecting. Yeah. And please read this book. Like, if you haven't read it and you're just watching the pod or listening,
you're going to be very confused.
Yeah.
Because this book, there's a lot of time skips. The cast is pretty large and it's just all over the place.
I mean, and please still watch. Please still listen. But we're just saying this one is definitely worth the read. It starts with Etain, who is the mother that I referenced, right? And it's in the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
College student. Her sister invites her to this party. She's got a bad relationship with her mom. What did you think about her character?
I liked Etain's character. I liked in the beginning how innocent she was. She didn't expect much of the future, which we're all kind of like that when we're young. When I'm young,
you're very young.
Yeah. But I actually liked her character. I liked where she ended up, even though it was very sad. But I liked how it was written.
I was like, you liked how she ended up. Not you liking how she ended up.
I like it from an artistic point of view.
Okay, that.
Not that I'm like happy she suffered. I'm not happy about that.
You know, some women just deserve trauma.
Half the world does think that, so
shit. Now, she and Kate weren't twins, right? Oh yeah, Kate was older. Kate's older. That's why she was out of the house, taking care of their aunt's cottage or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then her sister persuades her to come because like she has told her boyfriend that she'll be there. Kane is dating this guy, Barry, and they don't live in the same area. They don't really talk on the phone because Etain's mother is like crazy and nobody calls her, not even her sister, unless her mom's not home. I love Barry.
Barry was my favorite character and such a tragic case.
I love Barry. I told you earlier, but every time I was reading about Barry, I immediately thought of the actor who plays Dunk from A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. That's my Barry.
It was so sad because he didn't do anything wrong, and yet he was met with all this bullshit, and then he was murdered.
She goes to the party, and they hang out, and he proposes to her, and he gives her this ugly ass ring.
So I knew instantly that this shit was gonna be haunted. I knew it has something to do with the ring, the way it was described. I was like, okay, this ring is gonna cause some shit, right? Even the way it described how it didn't fit her finger and then it started to like tighten on her finger.
That was what was the clue that it was cursed for me, because when he gave it to her, I didn't think anything of it. I did think it was weird he gave her such an ugly ass ring, but I was like, oh, maybe it's a family heirloom. He's poor. Like, they kind of describe him as being a little bit of like a, I was going to say bumpkin, but I was like, I don't want to be mean because I love this man.
No, he is. It's okay.
Kind of just like simpleton type dude, but like good heart, which is also why I loved him. But before he gives her the ring, she has this like internal dialogue where she's talking about breaking up with him, and they never really get into that in the book. And I was curious if she's going to break up with him just because she was so unhappy, kind of like how Aisling, I don't know why I want to keep calling her Ainsley. Aisling was pushing Betty away because of her own fear.
I thought it was just a parallel between the mother and the daughter.
Okay, I'm just dumb. But I initially, when I started reading it though, because like
I didn't know at that time. So
yeah,
I was like, what are you talking about, little girl? But yeah,
I was curious because I was like, there's got to be something about this guy that's like a problem. And then as the story progressed, I don't see anything wrong with him. He's just a nice guy. They get engaged, and she immediately kind of shifts, and she's like, I am in love with this guy.
Low key, I did think he was involved at first. So when the ring started to tighten, and when she ran into that guy with the dogs, I was like, okay, he gave her a cursed ring. He's in on it. I immediately picked up culty vibes. I don't know if I'm just in tune with my shit, but when he gave her that ring and when she found the man with the dogs and how it kind of like overcame her, and then when she was kidnapped and brought into the house and the farmer Phelan was talking to people on the phone, I was like, okay, there's a cult going on, and I think Barry's in on it.
I didn't realize it was a cult thing right away. I was suspicious of Barry for the same reason, but I definitely did not see cult stuff coming until Feedlam and them started mentioning the groom and him getting the phone calls. And I was kind of surprised by that. So like, she's leaving the party after getting engaged, and she runs into this dog who's gnawing off the face of this man in the street.
And she's like, well, I need to put his corpse in my car.
Which is where I was like, okay, is this her? Or is she fucked up by this ring?
I think the ring fucked her up.
1,000%. So she put him in her car, and then she gets attacked by not just the dog that was initially eating her face, but a bunch of other dogs show up. And I was like, ooh, what is this? I thought maybe a werewolf story. You know, there's not a werewolf on the cover or anything like that kind of shows, but I'm open to what this story could be. Okay, oh my God, we need to talk about what happens in the farmhouse.
How'd you feel about his wife? I liked his wife.
His wife was wild. I'm going to sit here and play solitaire as you bring in this like random girl. Obviously, I knew like there's something going on. Both the wife and the husband are in on it if she's not alarmed or upset. Because he brings her in, and then he also brings in the dead body and puts it in a separate room. She starts hearing stuff in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And then she looks out the window and she sees the farmer is outside smoking, but it sounds like they've been fucking. But when she was like, oh, I hear these noises, I wrote in my notes, is Farmer Lady fucking this dead body? And then when the story happened, I was like, oh, no.
I mean, get some.
Help.
If you can't get it from your coward of a husband, get some from a corpse.
The thing that I really actually kind of didn't like was the TV stuff. I didn't understand why it needed to be through a TV show.
I think the author just liked TV shows.
But it wasn't even incorporated enough in the story throughout to be such a main plot point, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I thought the TV was like used as a way for the pucking or pooking to get its prey. I thought it was like just a channel to get to people, specifically like children and those in distress or whatever.
Yeah, but I wanted more information about like why.
Yeah.
Like why, how.
I thought it was just like a fairy creature because that's usually how it goes. At least in most of the like folklore story that I read in Ireland, they're like fairy kind of related. They really bounce around with the whole they're not good or bad kind of deal. They just do what they want.
He does kind of incorporate that into the story in a way with the priest, for example.
The changeling.
Yes, I even wrote in my notes before they actually talk about it in the book. I was like, okay, so who's good and who's evil? Is the priest bad? Are these people actually good who kidnapped her and they're trying to do something good? But I was like, no, it doesn't make sense because they're trying to fuck a dead body and like it seems like they're exchanging people for land. So who's good in this scenario? Who's bad in this scenario? And I like how he was just kind of like, sometimes it's either or, it's both.
Yeah.
But Etain basically has gone missing for so long and everyone is concerned about it, including Barry, and Barry is a suspect.
Poor Barry. For no reason.
And it sucks. Somebody makes up some kind of rumor.
I think it was the creature and the cults that started the rumors and like put it in people's heads that he did it, and that's why no one really remembered, because one part of the television series that was touched on upon with Aisling is that everyone remembered the TV show, but everyone had different memories of it, and I think that was part of the magic, and I think that's what happened with Barry and her kidnapping, is that everyone had their own idea of what happened. And because of some magic that the cult was doing to not be suspect or something.
They think Barry is a suspect, but then not for long because she comes back.
And Patricia was on top of her shit.
I loved Patricia Skelton so much.
Is she your favorite character?
Yeah, actually, I think she is, because Patricia was like the reporter, right? Initially, she was going to really push in the direction of Barry being, the villain, but then she asked questions early on that put her in a direction to show that he had nothing to do with this. And she was the first one to even question who started the rumors about the fights and everything. Because when we were reading the book, I didn't even think about that until she said it. I was like, oh yeah, who did say that they were fighting? Because I don't remember reading about that fight either, unless it was Kate. Because I also got a little bit suspicious of Kate for a minute. Kate's kind of in and out of the story. She seems important, but then she like disappears. And then we find out that Kate had left after their mom died. But do you think that she left because she thought that Etain had killed their mom?
I don't know. I genuinely did not even think about it. I just kind of took it as she left and I didn't think about it.
Because there's like a moment where Kate talks about how she had seen Etain in town at a certain time when she had thought she was gone.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, their mom was dead, and the way their mom died was like she had fallen down the stairs.
Maybe she did think she killed her mom. Oh,
that's why she did the no contact.
Because she found out that Barry was dead. She thought, what did she do? So I think she did think that Etain killed her mother and then possibly killed Barry as well. Mm-hmm. I think she knew that her sister was a little fucked up after everything, which I would be too. Who knows what she saw in that TV when she was in that house. I think it was sucking her life force or some shit.
I was gonna say, because she wasn't actually a changeling, right? Because they didn't actually finish with her.
No. You know what's crazy? I thought Aisling was a changeling at first, but it wasn't. It was her sister. I love how it steered away.
I liked the scene where Aisling was in the underworld, but she had become Betty. And there was other creatures dressed as her grandmother, her mother, and herself. The maiden, what is it? Maiden something crone?
Maiden mother crone.
Maiden mother crone.
Yeah, that's the Morgan thing. Or Morrigan or whatever.
Morrigan.
Yeah.
I've heard of maiden mother crone, but so I got excited.
I don't like the term crone, but
I mean, their grandmother was a crone.
Yeah, but I think it's a misogynistic term.
Oh yeah.
So
welcome to the patriarchy.
Yeah.
But I do think that was kind of confusing. Maybe it was just me.
It was a little confusing. I eventually wrapped my head around it. I just kind of accepted it as it was. I actually really liked that Aisling wasn't the changeling, because at first, when they went to get to that story and she talked about the changeling and she kept looking at Aisling, I was like, okay, this is so fucking obvious that Aisling is a changeling. And I was getting annoyed, but then he totally switched it up and it was like, actually, it's her sister. And I was like, I love that shit.
Yeah.
I thought that was like a baddie move. And I was like, period.
Oh my gosh. When Barry does get murdered by the priest, though,
that shit was so sad.
I was so annoyed. As soon as they went into that jewelry shop and that guy started being like, ooh, I don't remember. Ooh, maybe I do remember. I said, cut this motherfucker off. Leave. And when he was like, oh, I can't give you their information, but give me where you're staying. I was like, my God. You guys, don't, how about let's not? How about leave him phone number? Maybe don't tell them the exact hotel room or something.
And when Patricia got that phone call, I was like, oh shit.
Was it the land guy who called Patricia?
That's what I guessed.
Okay, so then maybe I'm confused because they said Land he wasn't helping them because he was trying to do things for his own benefit, but it seemed like he was also like helping, and that's why I didn't understand.
That's the whole point of all these creatures is that they do things in their best interest. They're not good or bad, so I think he was just fucking around. I don't like explaining the folklore. I think he should have just gone more into just the creatures and what they were doing and less about their names and what everything was called. The Morrigan, she's different in every single story. It's basically like she's a goddess of like fate and death and future and all sorts of things.
In the author's note, he does say that he did his best as far as the mythology is concerned.
Because, the pagans were murdered by the Romans, so there's not a lot that they can go off of.
He was saying that he did his best, but he was like, do not use this book as a guide for Irish folklore because a lot of other stuff that was just what he wanted, which is fine. He included that with the mention of his character Betty because Betty is trying to write a play at some point that includes folklore. And one of the professors is just kind of like, you couldn't just write what you want to write because it can be anything. That's kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
Which is true.
I mean, and I understand the author's struggle because the pagans in Ireland, everything was oral. It was oral tradition for the most part, and anything that was written down, the Romans probably destroyed. And so there isn't a lot to go off of except like a few of the survivals and like the survivors and like some of the revival attempts at the religious aspects of the druids and the bards and stuff like that.
I do like when he mentioned that regardless of how Catholic some of the Irish were, there would always be that paganism there.
Yep. Catholicism came way after, so.
We didn't even talk about Betty.
How did you feel about the vagina bit?
Oh, I loved it. Okay, so, because they're doing the vagina monologues, which is a real show, infamous to some, because it's all from the perspectives of different vaginas. I highly recommend it. I think you would actually really like it.
Is it vaginas talking to each other?
They're not talking to each other. It's their monologues from different vaginas. So just like how Aisling was talking about how she was the one with hair, and so that vagina is talking all about like pubic hair, and then there's some that are talking about experiencing sexual trauma, and it's a really, I'm telling you, it's a really good show. I liked Betty so much. I loved how she was described. I like how she was supposed to be curvy. She, from the very jump, like even though she wasn't open to everyone, I like how she immediately was like, hey, I'm gay. You gay? You visit the island of Lesbos. And I like how Aisling at first was kind of just like, oh, not really. I'm not into labels, but yeah, I like women. Like, yeah.
I think he was trying to describe some other sexuality that wasn't a thing yet. I didn't really care for it all. I just wanted them to get to the horror start. I'll be honest. I was like, this is all sweet and everything. Can someone die, please? Like, I don't know. I loved the story. Don't get me wrong. I liked the building of their relationship. But also, I feel like it could have been shortened. Like, I didn't think it had to be that long. I think he could have gone into the folklore way sooner than he did.
I felt like he went into the folklore right away. That was the other storylines. I'll be real, I didn't understand the connection and to Aisling and Etain until like midway through the book, even though it says right here on the back.
Which I think that needs to be changed. I'm with you on that.
I'm like, bro, they give too much away in this back synopsis alone. If you choose to go through and read the book yourself, like, you don't need to know all this. Just read it. Just give me the vibes. Just give me general vibes of what this book is going to be. You don't even have to tell me what it's about. For the people who are extra sensitive, maybe you can have a trigger warning in the beginning. I am totally anti-trigger warning, by the way. Sorry, maybe I'm old, but I just think that life doesn't come with a trigger warning, so you need to prep yourself. One of the ways you can do that is by reading books.
I can go either way. I don't mind if there's a trigger warning. I don't care if there's not a trigger warning. I vibe it, you know. I just read the book and decide if I like it or not.
Maybe I'm just a little too harsh on that.
But I love this book. I did like it a lot. I liked how the characters were written. I thought it was written well. I would have preferred it to be in first person, but that is a very subjective thing. I just prefer first person over third. And even if it was a little confusing towards the end, I think one more reread would have been enough for me to get it, really.
Was there any parts that were your favorite?
I have a least favorite when Barry died.
Yeah, I didn't like how he died.
That was my least favorite. I hated that. I mean, it was just because I was sad. I liked Barry.
Yeah.
I didn't want him to go.
I didn't like how Patricia died.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Because, like, she literally did so much work. She did so much, and she became a pariah. Another thing that I thought was interesting is that, like, in her ramblings, she talks about how being drunk helps her, like in her little diary entry, she talks about how like being drunk helps her get closer, but she needs to be careful about that. But then Etain also had a drinking problem, and she also, I think they also mentioned at some point something about her needing to be drunk for something. I was like, is this actually a story thing, or are you talking about how alcoholism can sometimes be used as a barrier to hide from trauma? I don't know. I felt like there was something he was trying to say with that, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. Did that stand out to you?
I think it's the second option. I think he was talking about how you know, alcohol is abused, just, and it can stunt you in your growth. I didn't read too much into it. I love how you're trying to find like deeper meanings into the story, because I know there were deeper meanings. I know he was going for something, but I'm just not about that, man. I was just reading it kind of face value, and I was like, I liked it. So
I try to read both ways. I do think it's important to know what the author's intention is with the story sometimes, but also I like to make my own interpretations to see where they might have been coming from and my own personal connection with it, because that's part of why I like to read and why I like art in general. I like being able to like break it apart in that way. And because of the way it was written, it felt very intentional. I didn't think that he was adding certain things in here just for flourish, you know? So I think that I was trying to consider it more. And this is definitely a book I plan on reading again, to be honest. There's some stuff in here where I feel like I might have missed on the initial read, but I still really enjoyed it. I loved how it was written. I really enjoyed the characters.
I thought it was really well written.
It was really well written. And also, I know you didn't like it, but I really loved the relationship between Betty and Aisling. Although Aisling was really pissing me off with her,
I'm so fucking damaged. No one's gonna ever stay with me, so let me just immediately break up with you and then like call you and be like, I miss you.
I hated that shit so much. Also, I love the idea they had for Romeo and Juliet. I want to see their version of that play. I loved learning about the like different plays that they were doing, and I loved how they connected through like their drama soak. That was amazing to me. And as much as I hate U2, and I even wrote it in my notes, I was like, man, fuck a U2, man. But I loved the connection of the scene. I would love to actually see him write a romance because I'm not gonna lie, I love the romantic stuff in this. I was like, he hit it so well.
It just needs to be in a separate book.
I think it could have been in a separate book, but I'm also not mad that it was in this one.
I did like the relationship a lot. I loved the lesbian stuff. I did think the story in general was slower for my taste. It's definitely like a slow burn. Like, I still enjoyed the story, but I wish it was scarier. Like, there were scary bits, and it was definitely a horror, but it's more like toward the end. Like, it gets into it in the beginning, and then it slows down for the romance, and then it gets back into it. And I wish it just stayed with the horror the whole way through.
It was way more romance forward than I was expecting, big time. And I'm not mad at that at all because I actually really enjoyed the romance in this book.
I do wish it was pushed to the side a little bit more because there was a lot of folklore in the story. I read the reviews afterwards. A lot of people were confused, and I think the story is better for people who know at least a little bit about Irish folklore. But I also think that if they pushed the romance aside a little bit and allowed for more of the world building and more horror, I think it would have been easier to understand.
I agree. I think also I wanted him to lean in more on the folklore stuff. Like, for example, when they're going to get the story from the creepy old lady and she leaves and goes into the field and she steps on when she talks about the hungry grass. They talk about the long-term effects of the starvation, like from Etaine's aunts and her uncle. Then she talks about how like so many of them died from malnourishment and
her mother died from osteoporosis because her bones were brittle.
Exactly, and how they were stunted in growth and that kind of thing. And I wanted him to lean in on that more and connect it more to the overall plot.
I'm actually upset there was no smut.
Okay, before we wrap things
up,
we do need to talk about that because the fade to black. There was a scene where it's like, Ashley starts to eat out Betty, and it's like, ooh, okay, and then it's like the next morning, and I said, bitch, and then.
Or then, even with Etaine and Barry, like I want to see Barry getting down, bruh. I want to see Barry get like
Barry get buried. You know what I'm saying?
I need my favorite character to get fucked. So
like literally that, and it made me so sad because I was like, you're gonna focus so much on relationships, and you're not gonna give us like a little bit more, like please.
And he's such a good writer. I was like, write some smut, buddy. Write some smut because I was getting into it, and then he just stops. I'm like,
I think the smuttiest thing was that lady fucking the dead body.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be okay with a scene like that too. It could be like horror and smut all in one.
I guarantee you there's probably books like that out there. If you know them, drop them in the comments and potentially we might traumatize ourselves reading it.
I don't need a whole book about it. I was just talking about it.
No, you're going to get a whole book now. That's what she said. Remember this. So let's just start to wrap things up here. Out of 5, what do you give it?
I gave it a 4.5. It was good. It was just the small things like pacing, and it got a little jumbled in the end. But that's it.
Yeah, I think I gave it a 4.25. I liked it. And the things that I didn't like weren't even really that big of a deal. Like, this would not detract from me saying that this was a really good story. One of the top ones I've read this year so far.
Definitely
one of the best books I've read so far this year. So have you read this book? What did you think about it? And we'll see you for the next episode. Bye.
Bye. Period.